Call to order
Right.
tonight's meeting. This is the Board of Education organizational meeting, Tuesday, January 7th, 2020. We're beginning the meeting at 7:06 p.m. We're at NHS North Boardroom. I would like to congratulate and welcome our new members of the Nashua Board of Education. I'd also like to welcome back our members from last year. So we have this is the organizational meeting, and we have a very short agenda with nominations for president, clerk, and committee assignments, and that's the business of this meeting. So I'd like to first take the roll call. Jennifer Bishop. Here. Jessica Brown. Here. Sharon Giglio. Here. Raymond Garino is here. Paula Johnson. Present. Dottie Oden.
Here.
Heather Raymond.
Here.
Gloria Timmons.
Here.
Sandra Ziem. Here. We have a quorum, all 9 members.
Right. And can I just remind everyone to turn on your microphone, even for here? Thank you.
Okay. Also present, we have Dr. Mosley.
Present. Good kid.
Dana O'Gara.
Here.
Donna Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Dr. McKinney. Dan Donovan.
Here.
And one of our new student representative from Nashua High South, Joshua Gow.
Here.
Okay. So first item on our agenda is to open nominations for President of the Board of Education for the year 2020. Ms. Oden?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Heather Raymond.
I second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay.
Okay.
No other nominations. I'd entertain a motion to close nominations.
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, okay. Okay, on the motion to close nominations, Jennifer Bishop?
Aye. Yes.
Okay. Jessica Brown?
Yes.
Sharon Giglio?
Yes.
Raymond Garino votes yes. Paula Johnson?
Yes.
Dottie Oden?
Yes.
Heather Raymond?
Yes.
Gloria Timmons?
Yes.
Sandra Ziem?
Yes.
Okay, we have one person nominated for president, Heather Raymond. Before we vote, I would ask Ms. Raymond if she would like to say a couple of words first.
Sure. Once again, I'm humbled to be the only person nominated, or possibly, a target. I'm not sure which way. But I tried my best last year. There's definitely a learning curve. I will continue to try my best and continue to learn. So if people want me, I'll do it.
Okay. So now we're going to take the vote. So if you want to vote for Heather Raymond, just say Raymond. Okay. Ms. Bishop?
Raymond.
Okay. Ms. Brown?
Raymond?
Ms. Giglio?
Raymond.
Raymond Garino votes Raymond. Paula Johnson?
Raymond.
Dottie Oden?
Raymond.
Heather Raymond?
Sure, Raymond.
Gloria Timmons?
Raymond.
Sandra Ziem?
Raymond.
Okay, the vote is 9-0. Ms. Raymond will be our president for the year 2020. Okay.
Right.
Next on the agenda, I'm going to open nominations for clerk. Ms. Timmons?
I'd like to nominate Ray Carino for clerk.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there any other nominations for clerk?
No.
Ms. Oden?
I move to close nominations.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. On the motion to close nominations for clerk, Ms. Bishop?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Giglio?
Yes.
Mr. Garino votes yes. Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Ziem?
Yes.
Okay. I want to thank you all for nominating me again. I really appreciate the support that you all given me tonight, and I will do my best this year, and I think we're going to have a good year. So now we're going to take the vote for clerk. If you want to vote for Garino, just say Garino. Okay. Ms. Bishop?
Garino.
Ms. Brown?
Garino.
Ms. Gilio?
Garino.
Mr. Garino votes Garino. Ms. Johnson?
Garino.
Ms. Oden?
Garino.
Ms. Raymond?
Guarino.
Ms. Timmons?
Garino.
Ms. Ziem?
Garino.
Okay, so I will be the clerk again once more for the year 2020. I want to thank you all very much. So our last piece of business, we have two pieces of business, okay. We have committee assignments also, right? Okay. All right, so before we do committee assignments, we have the roll call order. So I guess we can, I'll just go around and each person will choose a number. Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I took two. Sorry.
One per person.
I'll take this fit right now.
Yep. Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm going to ask the members what number you have, starting with number 1, and that's me, actually. So I'll be number 1. And who has number 2?
I have number 2, Paula Johnson.
Okay. Number 3,
Me, Sandra Ziem.
number 4,
Me, Jen Bishop.
5,
Sharon Gilio, me.
6,
That's me, Heather Raymond.
7,
Brown.
8,
Me.
and 9.
Oden.
Okay. 1, 2. Okay, so our last bit of business, we'll collect them afterwards, is the committee assignments, and Ms. Raymond has distributed the potential appointments. So I'm going to turn over the floor to Ms. Raymond, if you want to, do you want to talk about it? Or?
Sure. So I took a look at the requests, and I decided to try and I made some charts to help either myself or whoever got elected president. I figured if someone else was, I would just hand this over and they could do with it what they will, shred it or use it or whatever. But since no one else wants it and it's me, I propose the committee assignments that I handed you out. I tried to give everybody their first choice. In most cases, they got their second choice. I also tried to make sure that everybody, there was a balance amongst the members for how many boards, how many committees or liaisons they were serving on. So in general, everyone has 2 committees, 1 alternate, or 1 liaison. The only 2 things that I did, the only one thing that I didn't realize was the director's contract will be coming up in the next few months, and so I didn't try and assign anybody for negotiations for that because I forgot. So we'll have to address that at some point. But if anyone doesn't like where I've put them, or if I've made a mistake and I thought I gave you your first, but I didn't, please let me know, or motion to trade with someone, or whatever, and I'm fine with it. Oh, lots of people have their hands up, so I didn't do as good of a job as I thought.
Go ahead, Ms. Gilio.
You did a great job, but I have a commitment on the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday of every month in the evening. So if any of the committees that I'm on, if that's the meeting time, I would have to try to trade with someone. But I'm happy with the assignments, thank you.
You know, I knew that, and I didn't even look because we didn't establish a calendar yet. So I don't know yet, but I think we could move things around if we needed to. Do you want me to call, or do you want to? People's hands up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Who else? Ms. Ziem.
Well, if you finished, I just have another question. I was put on strategic planning. Will strategic planning continue? Didn't that?
I don't know. I was hoping to ask Dr. Mosley that this evening, because there was a spot on it, there was a blank space for someone, so I figured I'd try.
You want me to respond?
Dr. Mosley.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Mosley, there was a question in there. Dr. Mosley.
So the answer to your question is, I think it's helpful to have a board member part of that committee. So I think it is going to continue to meet. Part of it is, as we all know, it's already been implemented and actually active. But I also think what was very helpful is to have that board liaison between the administration and the board. So happy to have that person to be part of it. We are responsible for giving an update to the board. And so that's going to be coming up in the spring. So it'd be nice to have a board member as part of that, if the board shall choose.
May I?
Sure, go ahead.
So will it be a disadvantage that I did not participate in the original strategic planning? I understand that Sue did such a wonderful job, and she was wonderful about trying to share with all of us. I so much appreciated it. She was wonderful. So I can't fill her shoes. They were too worthy. But I'm just wondering if it should be somebody who has that history. If it doesn't make any difference, I'm all right with it. I just don't want to do a disadvantage to you.
I don't think it's a disadvantage. The strategic plan was voted on, and now we're actually in the implementation stage. So, plus you have many years' experience. You've been on the Board of Education before, so you know a lot of the issues. I personally, I'm not speaking for the board. Other people might have a different sort of opinion, but I don't see any problem with it. I think you can hit the ground running. Did you have your hand up, Ms. Timmons?
No, I agree with you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Anyone on here I might have missed? No?
Okay. I did check, Ms. Gilio, and we have two options moving forward as far as in our packet for the next meeting regarding meeting schedules. And one of them, you don't have any committees on Tuesdays, and on the other, policy could meet on Tuesday. But in the past, if someone's had a regular commitment, that committee has discussed moving the night, or members have discussed switching committees. So I think either way we go, I think we can work it out.
Thank you.
I hope. So, fingers crossed.
Any other comments regarding the committee appointments? I want to ask you, can we take this up next meeting and vote on it, or do you want to?
I think we can vote on it whenever we want.
Okay, it's up to the,
So I would move to accept the 2020 BOE committee appointments proposed here this evening.
Second.
okay. Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Ms. Oden?
I just want to thank Ms. Raymond. I know what a process this is and trying to distribute things evenly, and I want to thank you. I think you did a really good job on this. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Oden. I made several charts, which was helpful. So.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Okay. I think we're ready to take a vote on the motion to accept the committee appointments for 2020.
Oh,
Oh,
Mr. Guarino, I'm sorry. It occurs to me that we have no one on the phone, so we can do voice vote instead of roll call if we wish.
True,
It's even better.
true.
Sorry, I just, it
That's
was
all
like a light bulb moment that
Yeah.
I had to share with everyone.
Yeah, that's all right. But just to humor me, I'd like to take the roll, okay?
It's
All right?
entirely up to you.
All right, and before I do take the vote, I would just like to also commend you on your work on this. You know, as Ms. Oden said, it's not easy. Okay, so on the motion to approve the committee appointments, Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Ziem?
Yes.
Ms. Bishop?
Yes.
Ms. Gilio?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Odens?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0. Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Raymond.
Thank you. I forgot. I wanted to, when we were talking about the roll call order, I wanted to motion that we sit in roll call order the way that the aldermen do, which would make roll calls more easy, or that's not a word, more convenient.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion to sit, in roll call order, okay? Is there any discussion on the motion? Ms. Timmons?
Yes, from left to right or right to left?
I propose that we start over there,
Okay, starting on our right.
but
Okay.
I don't care.
Also, would just like the president and clerk to sit in the middle.
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion on this motion? Okay, and this time I guess I can do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
We have one opposed, and motion carries. Okay, in that case, I think we are at the end. Dr. Mosley?
I do have a question for the president. Is there any discussion around meeting per week? So just kind of going back a little bit, last time the board convened, the last board, excuse me, we had 2 meetings a week, and now we went down to 1. I don't know, in terms of scheduling, what the board shall yield on the meeting times per month. It's nice for us to get that into the schedule for people as we start to plan for the year.
Yep, I have that on this evening's agenda, as an agenda.
Okay.
I mean, I suppose we could have put it in the
Okay.
organizational meeting,
I wasn't
but
sure, okay.
we only scheduled 15 minutes for it, so I was trying to slice.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, so I think that brings us to the bottom of our agenda. Unless anyone has any other comments, I could entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. I think we have to have a roll call vote to adjourn. So on the,
I don't believe so.
Did we get a second on that?
I think Ms. Johnson and I,
Johnson seconded it.
Oh,
We
she
don't?
seconded
We
it,
don't need
okay.
it?
no, we don't need a
We
roll
don't need,
call.
okay. All right, on the motion to adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned at 7:25 PM.
Okay. So, so if everyone will bear with us for just a second, we do need to turn off the recording and then turn it back on. And it looks like a couple people want to stretch their legs. It is 7:30, and I would like to call this meeting of the Nashua Board of Education to order. Today is Tuesday, January 7th, and we are in the Nashua North Boardroom. Welcome, everyone, and Happy New Year. So, Mr. Guarino remains our clerk. So if you don't mind, Mr. Guarino, could you please start us off with the roll call,
Okay.
which I have written down right there.
Yep, I got it. Okay, Mr. Guarino is here. Ms. Johnson,
Present.
Ms. Ziem? Here. Ms. Bishop?
Here.
Ms. Gilio?
Here.
Ms. Raymond?
Here.
Ms. Brown?
Here.
Ms. Timmons?
Here.
Ms. Oden?
Here.
Also, tonight attending is Dr. Mosley,
Here.
Ms. O'Gara, Mr. Donovan,
Here.
Dr. McKinney,
Here.
Ms. Fitzpatrick,
Here.
and Mr. Gao, our new student representative.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Guarino. It should be noted that Mr. Norris, our student representative from North, wanted to be here, but he has an away basketball game this evening. So best of luck to Mr. Norris and the Titans. So when you're ready, Mr. Guarino, if you could lead us in the prayer. And then Mr. Gao, let's put you on the spot on your first meeting and have you lead us in the pledge after Mr. Guarino is finished with the prayer. You.
I just want to note that participation in our prayer is voluntary, and the Nashua Board of Education does not condone or advocate any specific religion. Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty of managing the educational institutions of our beloved city. In our common endeavors, may we find a spirit of unity and understanding which will enable us to face our multiple problems with an objective mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will be for the betterment and greater happiness of all of our fellow citizens. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So this evening, to begin with, we would like to welcome our new student representatives, Mr. Gao from South and Mr. Norris from North. Dr. Mosley, did you have a presentation, or was it simply a welcome?
For superintendent comments?
No, for the recognition of our new student Board of Ed. I wasn't sure based on what it said.
No, I did not have a formal presentation for tonight.
Okay, that's totally fine. Well, welcome. We're very excited to have you here, and I look forward to having a great year. We did committee assignments in our organizational meeting, and Ms. Timmons remains the student liaison, so she will be here to help you along the way, to answer your questions, as will we all. So, thank you. All right, so the next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. Did anyone have anything that they would like to be removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Ms. Timmons?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Timmons.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gilio.
On the motion, you ready for the vote, Madam President?
Yes, thank you.
On the motion to approve the consent agenda, Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms.
Can we
Johnson?
kind of do a,
Oh, we can do
voice
voice
vote.
vote. Okay, good
It's
point.
going to take a little bit to get used
Yep,
to, I think.
okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, wonderful. We have no items removed from the consent agenda. Does anyone have any communications outside of the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none. We are now on to our first public question comment period, limited to items on this agenda. Did we not have a sign up? Okay. Is there a show of hands of anyone who would like to speak? Okay. First, Mr. Marcoux. I apologize, Mr. Marcoux, for not having a sign up. We know about the broken chair.
I'm still taller.
No.
Adam Marcoux. I live at 4 Jolori Lane. I'm president of the Nashua Teachers Union. I'd like to wish you all a happy new year and welcome the new board to order. We're very excited to be working with you. As you probably know, I represent 4 of the union contracts in the district, the paraeducators, teachers, secretaries, and food service workers. All 4 of those contracts will be up in the next 2 years, so we'll be working with you to bring those to the city for approval. Right now, we're working on our para contract and at the beginning stages of our teachers contract and our food service contract. So lots to do. We look forward to working with you and collaborating in what's best for kids. I think sometimes that gets left behind with the ups and downs of the previous few years on the board. So it's a fresh start for everyone, including us. So we look forward to working with you as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marcoux. Alderman Dowd.
Thank you. Good evening. Alderman Rick Dowd, Alderman Ward 2. I am also, again, the liaison to the Board of Education from the Board of Aldermen. And Jan Schmidt, who was here earlier, is the alternate. And you can contact us at any time if you have any concerns or business with the Board of Aldermen or the city. So I just want to congratulate everybody that's been elected. You have some very new people with new thoughts and ideas. You have some people with a lot of experience, Mrs. Johnson and Mrs. Ziem, who have multiple years' experience in city government and on the Board of Education. So the only thing I wanted to mention this evening is a couple things. One is I hope in this new board that everybody can agree to disagree. Always state what you feel your opinion is, but also respect the opinion of others. And if the vote doesn't go your way, it happens. So you move on. The other thing is we have a very large middle school project that is now fully underway. We're taking our first steps anyway. All the funding has been approved, and there are a lot of things going on, and I will be calling a meeting of the Joint Special School Building Committee soon. Don't know what date that is yet, and look forward to providing a new outlook and improved educational experience for the students in the middle schools. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dowd. Okay. Do we have anyone else from the public wishing to speak on items on this agenda? Okay, seeing no hands, we'll move right along to the superintendent's comments. Dr. Mosley, welcome.
I'll be very brief. Just Happy New Year to our public and to our students. We've been back in school for 2 days. I always consider the first day back from winter break is the hardest day of school. It's not the first day of school. This is probably the first time that our kids and faculty can remember that we've been off for 2 weeks. So I can only imagine that Monday was pretty painful getting up. So I encourage everyone to go to bed early for the rest of this week, and we're right back into the groove of things. A couple things. We've been off for 2 weeks, so it's not too much to report out. Alderman Dow talked about the middle school project underway. That's a prodigious undertaking for the city and for us. That provides a level of equity for our students. We're embarking on our budget this year, and so today, Mr. Donovan and I had some preliminary conversations with the city around the budget and some of our priorities and what we're looking at, and so we'll be having additional conversations around that with the entire board and with the budget committee. So there's a lot on our plate this 2020. Congratulations to the new board members here who are, we're excited to be back in school again. and also excited about the progress that has happened. Despite everything that has happened over the last couple of years and everything, we have good schools here. I just want to touch a little bit about what the mayor said on Sunday around the education that we provide our kids, the commitment that we have from our teachers, our faculty, our administrators, the fact that we work together as departments with the police and fire and public works. It means something. And so I believe that Nashua continues to provide the best in all facets for our kids and for our community. I'm excited for 2020. And for our student rep, who is not here tonight, I hope you win the game. All right, have a good day.
Thank you, Dr. Mosley. Traditionally, after the superintendent's comments, board members have an opportunity to respond to his comments, but this is an opportunity to speak regarding what Dr. Mosley has said and not other comments. We have time at the end of the meeting for other comments. Going around the room, would anyone wish to make a response? Ms. Johnson.
Thank you very much. Dr. Mosley, I look forward to working with you. It's going to be a great 2020 year, and I think this board, we're going to work good together in the best interests of the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Seem?
I would just like to say that I watched a lot of the meetings, and I continue to be proud of Dr. Mosley. I believe he enriches our district, for which I am truly grateful. I hope that I will be able to support him in his efforts and that this board will be what it should be so that our children will be stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Seem. Ms. Bishop? No? Ms. Giglio?
I'm very happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to being on the Board of Education for the next 4 years and serving with the people here.
Thank you, Ms. Giglio. Mr. Greeno, I'm sorry, I should have started with you as one.
That's quite all right. No problem. I just wanted to welcome all the new members, and thank you for supporting me as clerk. And I agree. I think we're going to have a really good, I'm looking forward to working with everyone on this board. And so I want to welcome everyone here. And I want to welcome our new student representative also. And that's it. Thank you.
Great. Ms. Brown?
Thank you for such a gracious welcome, and I'm really looking forward to working with this group of folks as well. This is a great school district. We've got really big things on the horizon, and I'm really optimistic about where it's going to go. So I'm looking forward to working with you and everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Timmons?
Yes, I'd like to just ditto what everyone else on the board just said.
Okay. Ms. Oden?
Yeah, I want to welcome the new members. Thank you for taking the challenge of working on the school board. I want to thank Ms. Raymond. I know the extra time and effort it takes to be president and the extra work, and I want to thank you for taking that up again. I sincerely appreciate it, and I admire how you've handled this position, so thank you. And to Mr. Gao, I remember you came with some of your other students from South to do a presentation that was exceptional, and I look forward to having you on the board, along with Stephen, whose sister spent 2 years on the board my last term. So welcome aboard. And whenever you have a test coming up the next day, if the meeting's long, feel free to walk right out that door. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oden. Dr. Mosley, I did have a question. So you said that you were starting discussions with the city regarding next year's budget, and I think that's great news, so that we can get our discussions going early. I'm just curious, the mayor had mentioned in his remarks at the inauguration over the weekend some projected costs of health insurance. Has that come up yet, or are we not there yet?
Yes, it did. Did you want to speak to that, Dan?
Dan's like, no.
Well, it's a significant cost. It's very significant cost. So it's going to probably have it'll definitely have a significant effect on the city budget. Since we're the biggest piece of the city budget, it will have effect on us also.
Okay. All right. I look forward, or actually I don't. I dread learning more about that. But thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the student member of the board comments. So, Mr. Gao, would you like to share anything with us this evening?
Great, yeah. First of all, Happy New Year. It's the year of vision, 2020. So I have great aspirations and hopes for how much the board will accelerate the schools district this year. I'd like to thank everyone here for graciously welcoming me, everyone that has helped me through this journey. And I look forward to learning from each one of you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gao. Okay, let's see. The next item on the agenda is the Committee on Budget, which would be Mr. Guarino, but we don't have anything on there. I think I'm just going to skip right through these.
Yeah.
Are there any updates? And I'm going to post my questions to you, Dr. Mosley, Ms. O'Gara, Mr. Donovan, Ms. Fitzpatrick, and Dr. McKinney.
Sure.
Do we have any updates needing work this evening from any of our standing committees? Like, is there any HR work that wasn't on the agenda that we need to do that has popped up, or finance or anything? I'm seeing lots of shaking heads.
As usual, we do have personnel recommendations. They're waiting for I think it's January 27th.
Okay, if we approve that schedule. Okay.
I don't think there's anything we have for policy or curriculum. I'm looking at Garth. Curriculum? Okay.
Okay. All right, so just a note on that, we did approve our committee assignments this evening. So on the committee assignments, there's an administrator listed on the end. So if I could just ask the chairs to reach out to the administrator to start planning the agenda for the next meetings. The administrators have been through this a couple times, so they can answer questions. I'm here to answer questions. Mr. Guarino is here to answer questions. So we will give you whatever support you need. Okay? All right. I don't believe we have any unfinished business from last year, which is fantastic. So the next item is new business. The first item under new business is board governance. I had asked that this be put on our agenda for this evening. Last year during the budget process, we approved an amount of money to pay for dues to the New Hampshire School Board Association. But at that time, while we set the money aside, the board at the time was not interested in pursuing a membership. I would like to propose, in fact, I'm going to make a motion, that we go ahead and apply to become members of the New Hampshire School Board Association.
I second that.
Thank you, Ms. Timmons. One moment, Ms. Johnson. So the reason that I'm proposing this is there's a number of reasons why I wanted to make this motion. First and foremost is that I was chair of policy my first year here, and I'm aware of how difficult it is to craft policy in a vacuum. The School Board Association is an invaluable resource. They have already sent policies through their legal team. They've vetted them, they've done all of the research, and so once you join the School Board Association, you're able to take their templates and then tweak them so that they make sense for this district, which starts you kind of on second or third base instead of trying to reinvent the wheel for every policy. And I know that I would have significantly appreciated that. Ms. Van Twyver, who was on the board the last 4 years, it was a running theme with Ms. Van Twyver, how much she missed being a part of the School Board Association for exactly that reason. Additionally, the School Board Association offers, as part of the membership, various trainings and ongoing education for boards like our own, and including for board members, so that if we wanted to, going forward, we could take advantage of that. If we had particular questions and we wanted as a board to get more information about Robert's Rules or about vaping, for example, or other topics that are germane to how we do things as a board, the School Board Association offers information and training regarding that. And I really would have liked that 2 years ago. So, Ms. Johnson, you had a comment.
Yeah, I just have a question. What is the cost of this? What is it, for 1 year?
Yes, it's an annual cost. Mr. Donovan?
We budgeted 10,000, but I don't believe it's 10,000. And I would suggest, because I think it ties to the school year, that maybe we can get a discount for joining half a year and then, but I believe the last time we joined, the total was about 8,000.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just making a note of that for myself. Ms. Ziem?
I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to put the light on. I don't have enough experience to remember to turn the light on. With the new strategic plan, one of the things that I was particularly impressed with was that a lot of these things are going to be vetted by the teachers, is my understanding. And if that's not correct, please correct me. And if that's the case, I wonder if they have any input. Do they feel that does this have an advantage to them? Or is that do you hear what I'm asking? I'm wondering whether, I remember Ms. Van Twyver quite well. She and I had that conversation several times. I honestly voted against that, funding that several times, as I recall. I have mixed feelings about it, and so I would just like to know if, I guess I have this thing about I'm delighted that the teachers are going to vet some of these. I really think we were doing it backwards before, and I can't say enough good about what I've heard about the strategic plan. I was just so impressed, and so I would just like to know if anybody has any input in that regard.
May we invite Mr. Marcoux up to comment? Is that allowed?
Typically, that would be unusual.
Okay. Well, I'm unusual.
But I would say that the strategic plan calls for an organic process of making changes that are vetted through task forces made up of teachers and staff. And I don't think that joining the School Board Association would change that. And I happen to agree with you, Ms. Ziem, about we shouldn't be dictating to staff what we board members think. We should be utilizing people's expertise. But I would like to expand that expertise to not simply our own staff, who I think are brilliant and wonderful, let me be very clear, but also utilizing the expertise of a statewide organization. Dr. McKinney had his hand up like he had an answer.
Oh, thank you, Madam President. I wouldn't say I have an answer. I would just ask the board to carefully consider membership to the association, because as a executive board of really a teaching and learning organization, we should be modeling teaching and learning and ongoing growth. And it's not only just for board members along with administration can attend some of these events, and we can grow and learn together and become a greater team. So to Mrs. Ziem's question around teachers, it's just about ongoing professional development, teaching and learning. And I think if we have a desire to grow and learn, then that would foster through the whole school district. So thank you.
Ask him?
Yes.
So are you saying, Dr. McKinney, that the teachers indeed do use this? I was not, that was never discussed. I never heard that before, truthfully. So, and it makes a difference to me. If they're going to use it, it adds value. And so, based on that, I will vote for it.
Right.
Thank you.
So just to be clear, this is membership for board members around here and the administration that's sitting here only. This is in regards to professional development in policy, law, so many things that are at really an executive or administrative level, not so much to the teacher or the classroom level. So this would be something as a resource for everybody here, and I would hope that it trickles its way down all the way to the classroom and to the students, because certainly you could make the case that policy decisions, legal implications, funding, so many things have an impact on the classroom. So I would suggest we look at it.
The
that
legal
way.
end of it is what scares me, truthfully. So, but you're saying, if I understand you, you're saying that indeed, if they were vetting a policy, they could pick up the phone and call and say, do you have any information on this? And that would be a valuable tool. So I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, Ms. Giglio, you had your hand?
Yes, in Massachusetts, in a school district where I worked for many years, and have had ongoing meetings with them. They belong to the Mass Association for School Committees, and I had the pleasure of being able to attend one of their conferences. And last year, the school committee in Chelmsford used them to review all of their policies, which was huge, a huge project, and they were extremely happy with it. And so they found that to be very beneficial because the language of our policies sometimes doesn't match the language of the state. And they couldn't say enough about it. So it was very valuable to their school committee.
Thank you, Ms. Giglio. And do I see any other hands? Dr. Mosley?
I just wanted to add, just kind of dovetail what Dr. McKinney said, is that this membership to the New Hampshire School Board Association is really for this board and for us. We have to acknowledge that over the last couple of years that we really have struggled around the governance and really how that works with the board and with the administration, particularly around roles and responsibility, particularly around how that intersects and how that works out. The other thing too is like what's a conflict of interest for the board and what's a conflict of interest with us and how that gets played out. This board governance allows us to understand roles and responsibilities of just us, but our responsibility to you, but also the board's responsibility to our employees and to myself and to everyone. And so Barrett Christina is the executive director. Glenn Kuchar is actually in Massachusetts.
We graduated from high school together.
I think that was in 2011? Yeah, so, but it's really a resource for you, and a resource for you in case that you have questions about policy, questions about, not just policy, but the budget process and what your role is and how you see your role. And so that's a resource that you don't need to contact anybody within the district. You can just contact Barrett Christina and he can help support you. And finally, I think this is a great opportunity to just go on what Board Member Giglio said, is that it's a great way to network, to find out what other boards are doing throughout the state of New Hampshire. So, and to your point, Mrs. Eam, is that in the strategic plan, there is language around that membership and working and developing policies and procedure through the membership of board governance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mosley. Ms. Bishop, did you have your hand?
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think it would be great for the policy committee to have kind of that extra help to have us review what we're looking at and having it be uniform and more easily accessible for us to do some research.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't want to miss anybody. Were there other hands that I didn't see? Okay. Seeing no hands anywhere. Mr. Guarino, could you repeat the motion, please?
The motion was to approve membership of the district in the New Hampshire School Board Association.
I think it was to apply for membership.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
Apply.
Okay. I think we're ready to take the vote.
Okay, this is a voice vote? Mm-hmm. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all. Oh, okay, yes. Try and remember to press the button and move your microphone closer to your face if it's not picking you up. It takes forever, and Jimmy still waves at me frequently. So, okay. The next item on our agenda is approval of the Board of Education meeting schedule. Tara Quintanilla and Gabby Vernaccio, does she have a new last name? Yes. Okay. Formerly Vernaccio, and we'll...
I wrote it down. I'm sorry, Gabby just recently got, I think it's Baranio? I'm sorry. I just saw it first thing today,
Okay.
so,
Well, congratulations to Gabby.
so sorry.
So they both worked really hard to come up with two options for our calendar. So we have a tentative calendar for January, which I propose we simply accept. And then for February, we have option A with 2 meetings a month, or option B, 1 Board of Education meeting a month. And then they had to move all the other committees around if we only have 1 meeting. Last year around, I would say May or June, the board decided to go from 2 meetings a month to 1 meeting a month. And I think different people have different opinions about the efficacy of that model. I would actually move that we go back to a 2 meeting a month calendar, with the idea that we could break things up, have some consistency, and be able to get out of here at an earlier time. Ms. Timmons?
I wouldn't vote for that. I think the 1 meeting a month was working really well. We all have busy schedules, and we did accomplish what we needed to do the 1 meeting a month. We have committee meetings as well. So with the committee meetings and the 2 meetings a month, I think it's a little much. I will not be voting for 2 meetings a month.
Okay. All right, well, as it is, no one. So where we left it was the motion to do 1 meeting a month was only for last calendar year.
Right.
So it automatically reverts, I guess, but I still made the motion. But I didn't have a second, so, Ms. Ziem?
Here we go back, I didn't have that on again. I would like to know from administration, either Dr. McKinney or Dr. Mosley, how they feel about it. I would like very much for us to work together as a team, and I think that in all our decisions, I like to hear where they're coming from on it, so that I know what administration thinks and feels about. These are pretty important decisions, and if the 1 meeting wasn't enough, and they felt it should be 2, it would sway my vote, definitely would. So I would like to hear from them as to their position on it.
Okay. Dr. Mosley, do you have a position?
Well, I would just say that I'll defer to the board in terms of the meeting frequency. What I want the board to be sensitive to is the timing. And we have to be at central office to open up the schools at about 6:30, 7 o'clock every day. And that includes, Dr. McKinney and Donna too. So understand that our day starts at 7 o'clock every day. And so with that said, having a board meeting past 10:30 at 11 o'clock puts us in a very precarious situation, because we still have to do the business of the school. So I would ask the board to be considerate of the timing of these meetings, the efficiency, and using subcommittees to vet out that conversation and dialogue, and use the board as a way to take action steps to vote on recommendations coming from the subcommittees.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mosley. Sandra, did you have a follow-up?
Well, only with his input, it asked the question to me, it begs the question to me, can we do 1 meeting and then if it gets too late, stop and say, we'll have to have a second meeting this month? Because I agree with you, it's not only administration. I can tell you that when 10 o'clock comes, my brain goes to sleep, if it's awake at all. So I think that maybe a compromise in that manner might work, but that's just a suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ziem. Ms. Johnson, and then Mr. Guarino.
Thank you. When I sat on this board before, we had 2 meetings a month for the full board. We didn't go very late, and even when I was on the Board of Aldermen, we set the time for 9 o'clock, not unless there was a big issue that had to be taken care of, but most things should be done in committee, brought to the board, and then questions asked and vote on it. Believe me, I don't want to stay here till 10, 11 o'clock at night either. And there should be no reason why we should. This is a new board. People, let's try the 2 meetings, because I'm afraid that one meeting might just go too long because you can, it's one night. I mean, if the meeting starts at 7 and it ends at 8:30, hooray, we're out. We're not, no one's going to say, I want to sit here till 9, 10 o'clock at night. Everybody's going to say, yes, we did the work of the board and we can go home, and we shook hands and we left here until the next meeting. So my opinion would be, let's try it and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then we can put the other alternative back on the table and say 1 meeting. But I think, with all of us working together and doing the work in the committee, I don't foresee 10, 11 o'clock meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Mr. Guarino?
Thank you, Madam President. I agree with everyone who said that our committee, a lot of the work is going to get done in committee. I think we're going to be very productive in our committees, and all the work should get done. We are, I guess, legally bound to meet once every 2 months. So even meeting once a month would be more than twice the legal requirement. And also, even though we were meeting once per month last year for the last half of the year, we had special meetings, so a lot of times we were actually meeting twice a month. So I am inclined to say, let's meet once a month, and as Ms. Ziem said, I agree with her, if we have a lot of more work that month and things got caught up, then we can add a special meeting, and we can, everyone can, everyone can check their schedule. So I like once a month. It seems to be working great, and because we're going to be busy with JSSBC, we have a new the new school proposal there, plus the committees. So, and it's going to be budget season also. So I'm inclined to go once a month, and if we need those special meetings, we can call them. That's my feelings.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Guarino. I saw Ms. O'Gara and then Ms. Brown.
I tend to lean towards 1 meeting month just because we're very busy people, all of us. But unless someone can convince me that there's a logistical advantage of having 2 meetings. Like, is the first meeting a planning meeting for what you're going to speak about in committee, to speed through those line items, and the second meeting is really more of like a voting meeting? Is that, I mean, that's how it should work, but as long as they don't both turn into 2 marathon meetings a month.
So historically, 2 meetings was intended to be, the first meeting in the month would be the presentation. So if we had a PowerPoint or whatever, which I can count on one hand the number of meetings that we haven't had some sort of a presentation. So the first meeting of the month would be a presentation, and then the second meeting of the month would be the committee work. So all the work that was done in committee would then get voted on the second meeting of the month. Usually HR has stuff at both meetings.
So the first meeting is like just questions and presentations?
The first meeting is presentations. It should be updates on any contract negotiations in non-public. It should be other non-public discussions that we have. One thing that we did not do over the last year and a half was have contract updates, on a regular basis. We should be having updates on how negotiations go every month. And so my proposal for 2 meetings would be to have a set, the first meeting a month, we do this kind of work, and the second meeting of the month, we do this kind of work. And then, the other thing is if there's overflow. I don't believe that we got out of here before 9:30 or 10, ever, in my experience. Even this evening, it's 8:10, and this is like not even an agenda. So, Ms. O'Gara had her hand up.
Yes, I do. I would request that the board consider the summer months when we're hiring teachers for the upcoming school year, and we have about 60, 70 or so teachers, and it's very important to those teachers to have a confirmation from the board, because they will not resign from their previous school district to take a position with us until they know that they've been hired by the board. So in the summer months, if we could have 2 board meetings, that would be more helpful in the hiring process.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Gilio and then Dr. Mosley.
I just have a question looking at option A and option B. They have the meetings scheduled for different nights. Are we talking about meeting on Monday nights or Wednesday nights, or is that determined by whether we're having 2 meetings a month or just one? I don't understand the relationship.
So it would be 2 meetings, 1 meeting on the same day or 2 meetings on the same day. So we moved it to Wednesday the last time, but they were typically every 2 weeks, every Monday every 2 weeks.
Go ahead, Mr. Donovan.
The reason that it was moved to Wednesday was because if you look at when the committee meetings are done, you have to get the notes, the minutes and stuff done, put in the package, so they move. If you did it on a Monday, you wouldn't be able to get all that done. So the people behind the scenes need a few more days.
Right.
So if you choose the 1 a month, it should be a Wednesday. If you choose the 2 a month, it can be the Mondays.
Right. So what happens with if we don't do that is that some committees will then have to wait 6 weeks or longer for their items to be voted on at the full board. So if we don't choose a Wednesday night.
Thank you.
Yep. Dr. Mosley?
I think to Board Members Brown's question and point, I'm not sure what was said, is that what we had in your comments back, what has happened, and it gets back to the governance piece, is that we had people who would come to the board and say, I want to give a presentation. And those presentations really start at the subcommittees, and then a brief overview should come to the board. And I think what happened is that people said, well, why would I go to a subcommittee? I want to go directly to the board. And so that took a lot of time. So I think getting back to the governance, if you want presentations, how do you want those presentations to be played out? Do you want a brief overview and take that vote and then move on for action steps? But we have these committees in place, so it allows that vetting process and a long discussion around presentation, and I think that would be more efficient in terms of timing, but also it gives board members an opportunity to ask those in-depth questions before it comes to the full board.
Agreed. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so just to refresh, I had made a motion to, to accept the reverting back to 2 meetings a month. No one seconded it, so we had a conversation anyways. So at this point, we need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to have one full board meeting a month on the Wednesday, the 3rd Wednesday of every single month.
Okay. Ms. Eam?
I'd like to amend that motion to make the stipulation that in the summer months, if Mrs. Olguer can tell us which months those are, because I remember that being a problem, and we do not want to lose good staff because we can't get those papers in there quick enough. So if we could, if it's, when I think of summer, of course, I think of August, maybe July, I don't know. Are those 2 months sufficient, Mrs.?
Yeah, July and August.
That would be helpful. So I make a motion that we amend your motion that on the months of July and August, we would have 2 meetings.
Yes.
I'd like to second both amendment and motion, if I could. I'm not sure if it's allowed, but I'm going.
Well, I think we've gone out of order, but whatever. So we have a motion on the floor.
I need a second.
And a second by Ms. Timmons, seconded by Mr. Guarino, to adopt option B, which is having 1 full board meeting a month, which is the 3rd Wednesday of the month, and then the other meetings around there. And then we have an amendment by Ms. Ziem, seconded by Mr. Guarino, to allow for at least 2 meetings a month, or 2 meetings a month in July and August. And then I saw that Ms. Johnson had her hand up.
Right, I was going to just make the motion to go back to the 2 meetings originally, but now you've got those other 2 motions that we have to get out of the way.
Yep. So does anyone have any further discussion on the motion on the floor, which is to have 1 meeting a month and have it on the 3rd Wednesday, except for July and August, which will have 2 somehow that Tara and Gabby will figure out? I don't see any hands. Okay. In which case, we are ready for the roll.
Okay,
Well, for the vote.
okay.
And the motion for one meeting a month. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But we're, to be clear, we are saying that there would be one meeting for 10 months, and then 2 months of the year, we'd have two, July and August.
Yes.
I just want to be,
Yes, so a yes vote would mean one meeting a month, the third Wednesday of the month, with the exception of July and August, which would be 2 meetings a month. A no vote means no, we don't want one meeting a month, we would like to have 2 meetings a month. Okay? So I propose that we go, given the discussion, that we go ahead and do a roll call for this one.
Sure.
I think it'll be easier to keep track of numbers. I know other people have more skill with that, but when everyone talks at once, I can't count.
Okay.
I don't know.
On the motion to approve one meeting per month for 10 months and to be expanded 2 months during July and August. I'm sorry, 2 meetings during the months of July and August. Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Johnson?
No.
Ms. Ziem?
yes.
Ms. Bishop?
Yes.
Ms. Gilio?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
No.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Okay, I have 2 noes and 7 yeses. The motion carries.
Okay. Okay, so the next quibble item with that is I would like everyone to go back and look at your committee assignments. We don't have to do it right this second. But if it turns out that you are on a committee that you now cannot do because of the night of the week it is on, under option B, 1 meeting a month, let me know, and we will have to do something about that. I don't know what.
Madam President,
Yes, Ms.
are
Timmons.
we skipping over the approval of the 1 million additional operating budget? You going back? I'm not following you.
We just approved the Board of Education meeting schedule.
Right.
And as a tangent to that, while still discussing that matter, I would like everyone to look back at their committee assignments, because I recall in our organizational meeting an hour ago that at least one member has a regular commitment on a regular night, and it may be that now they may or may not be able to do that commitment based on the night that their committees are meeting, so we don't need to address that right now. People can look back and email me, but I think you have a problem, right, Ms. Gilio?
Well, I have a problem. Sorry. The first and third Tuesdays, I'm not available. So whether we met on Mondays or Wednesdays, once a month or twice a month, doesn't really play into that. But I see that one of my committees would be meeting on a night that I would not be able to attend, the Tuesday, so.
Yes, that would be the policy committee meeting. Okay. Dr. Mosley, were you waving your hand?
Yes, I'm just trying to think, I'm thinking out loud, and again, those, and I'll, Board Member Bishop and, Donna, maybe we can work something out. It's an alternative day. We just picked that day because it just worked for the previous subcommittee, but there are other days that you could meet. We preferably don't like to meet on Friday night, if that's all right. You know what I mean? I mean, that's a little bit too much, but certainly we can find another alternative day besides if there's a scheduling conflict,
Wait, did that?
if that works for people.
Okay, so we'll just, yes. Email me if there's a problem, and we'll figure it out. Okay? I think you're all right. Okay. Okay. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Gilio, and then, okay.
I'm getting a little confused, but I'm not sure that we ever actually discussed the next meeting, which is scheduled for January 27th, if we ever actually motioned and approved that one extra meeting for this month, or does that disappear since we've decided to meet on Wednesdays once a month? So I'm not clear if we're going to be meeting on the 27th.
Well, that's a good question. So if we have one meeting a month, our next meeting is not then scheduled until February 19th, which would be 1, 2,
I would like to motion now
6.
that we go ahead and approve to keep the meeting on the 27th.
I second that.
Okay. So any discussion on keeping the January 27th meeting? Ms. Seem?
Well, I would just like to know if, I'm assuming that because that motion has been made, there's business that needs to be taken care of on the 27th of January. Is that the case? Am I asking administration or whoever else might know that answer?
Yes, there should be business from all of our committee meetings that we have in January that perhaps, and HR that perhaps shouldn't wait until, I'm thinking finance and HR that perhaps shouldn't wait 6 weeks.
Right.
Mr. Donovan?
There'll certainly be contracts. You want to do the once a month, that's fine, but a lot of times there are contracts, you can't wait 6 or 7 weeks, because then the pricing's gone, et cetera. So, you know, if for some reason there's a snow cancellation or something like that, the idea of skipping a whole month is probably not a good one.
Yeah, it becomes problematic.
It does.
So, okay, so any other, yes, Ms. Seem?
I'd just like to add that I probably will not be here for that meeting.
Okay.
But I'm sure you folks can take good care of it without me.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Johnson, did you have your hand? Okay. Did anyone else have discussion on the motion to keep the January 27th meeting? Can I amend that motion to simply accept the January 2020 calendar as proposed? That way we've got all our committee meetings and we don't have to move all those around. Okay. Who made the original motion?
I made the original motion. I accept.
Friendly amendment, January. All right. So friendly amendment, motion is to accept the January calendar. Are you comfortable with that, Ms. Timmons, as your second? Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Okay. Shall we take the vote?
Okay, all those in favor to accept the January calendar, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. So, just to summarize, we're keeping January's calendar starting in February of 2020. We will go back to the one meeting a month, and the calendar for all of those meetings is in our packet. Okay. So, moving on. The next item on our agenda is the approval of $1 million of additional operating budget money for the fiscal year 2020. Mr. Donovan, can you give us a brief explanation?
Certainly. In your packet, there's a stapled group. It's the first page says resolution up at the top. Applying surpluses and reduction of taxes. So basically, give you a little bit of history. What happened was that the state, which does a biannual budget, the legislature approved the budget this spring or early summer, and then the governor vetoed it. So the budget, the state budget, was not approved until well after the city had completed its budget process and done all its calculations. So there was during the fall, right before we had to go get our tax rate set, which happens every October, early November period, we received an additional, through the budget compromise, to the city. And keep in mind, we're a dependent school district. We're not separate. We're part of the city. So the city received an extra $4.7 million, and that's what the amount on that sheet's showing. So basically, there was legislation brought before the Board of Aldermen, and simply put, what they decided to do was use about $1.8 million of that towards the tax rate, to keep the tax rate down for this year. And then there was another $2.9 million of this $4.7 million available. So if you flip to the second page over, you'll see another resolution. It's R19-185. So the Board of Aldermen approved this budget back about a month or so ago. So basically, this $2.9 million, there was $1 million that was put into the middle school project. Okay, so that's now to be able to be used for the middle school project. There was $1 million that we're going to speak about in a second that's up to this board to decide how to spend. We have some suggestions for you. And then another $900,000, it said, was put to the city general contingency. My understanding is that money will basically be used for the medical increases that we're having. That's pretty sure where that money has been put, if it has not already been put. So before us tonight, we basically have this $1 million. Now, this $1 million, since we're going to get it this year, we're also going to get some money next year, but after that, we don't know if this will ever show up again. So we'd like to look at this as sort of one-time spending, not adding 12 teachers. Adam may love that, but because that's going to be a cost that continues forever, right? We have many needs in the district. If you flip to the next page, you'll see here's the suggestions of administration that we'd like to do with this $1 million. The first is Fountas and Pinnell guided reading K-5. Dr. McKinney will go through in more detail what that is. I think the people that were on the board last time are well aware of it, but he'll give a little spiel on it in a minute. We've had a lot of issues with fingerprinting. As you know, we need to fingerprint all the staff that come and work with us, anybody that deals with children. We use a manual process right now. We'd like to be able to get a machine up to date, real technology, so that if there is an issue with the fingerprint, we'll find out about it right away. It's not going to take a period of weeks for that to happen. And that's a relatively small number, 9,270. And then the rest of the money is our IT infrastructure is very old. And I'm not an IT guy, so I'm not going to explain it probably fully correctly, but each school has a switch, and that's where all the information flows through, okay, that comes into the network. All our switches are between 15 and 17 years old. They're well beyond their useful life. We really need new ones. We need them at all the schools, but the suggestion here is that we would use these funds towards the 2 high school switches. We're hoping that we will, with the middle school project, we'll be able to get the switches in the middle schools as we do the renovations. And then you'll hear more about the elementary school switches a little later on in the budget process. So the suggestion is if we can get these amounts approved, you'll see in the box the total cost is $1,036,000. We do have that extra $36,000 in the operating budget currently now in the IT budget. So if you agree with these amounts, we can certainly come up with the extra $37,000.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Do we need to make a motion to accept the funds from the city, or has that already been dispersed?
You just need to, the funds have already been assigned to the district. You just have to make a motion on how you want to spend them.
Okay, I like that. Yes. That is good news. And then it sounds like Dr. McKinney is prepared to speak to the Fountas and Pinnell, but I wanted to ask, originally when we had discussed this money, we had discussed having a special budget meeting to talk about the administration's proposals and if the board members had any proposals and working that out. Is it the intention of administration to have that discussion now?
All we're presenting is just a recommendation, but if you wanted to wait and have another discussion, if the board shall yield that, that's fine. We just thought we wanted to talk a little bit about making sure that you got this information in a timely manner, but also just our recommendation. So whatever the board yields.
Okay, thank you. Dr. McKinney?
Thank you. If you turn the page after the page that Mr. Donovan was speaking to, in 2019, just for context, the board approved 4 things for literacy instructional materials at the elementary level. Guided reading materials, mini lessons, things for word study or phonics, and then online reading resources. So beginning on this first slide, we began in the fall ordering mini lessons for all the teachers. It's basically a teacher's manual of how to teach those mini lessons. Every classroom teacher got a copy of that. So this gives you an overview and the total cost. After that, we've purchased interactive read aloud. So these are books that look like this. This is 5th grade historical fiction. These are the specific books that are in the mini lesson teacher's manual, and the teachers have all the materials right in front of them to go ahead and deliver instruction. So now we have a kit of these. We call them the IRA collection for each grade level at each school. What's being proposed tonight is the guided reading resource, which would be 1 to 2 kits per grade level of over 200 titles, usually in a collection of 6 books for teachers to do guided reading instruction. So right now, the teachers make those lessons, find the books, do all that. This would be literally closer to grab and go. They would be able to have the 6 books and the lessons prepared for them to go deliver instruction for kids. It also aligns with our BAS, our benchmark assessment system. That's how we assess kids' reading and their progressions. For many years, teachers have not had the support of these quality materials, and now we're asking for your support to give it to them. And then lastly, the next slide is kind of a preview of where we're going next. If the budget should permit in FY21 is looking to bring in phonics or a word study resource for K-2, which is one of those 3 options. So with your support tonight, we may have 3 out of the 4 things that came before the board in 2019 in the hands of elementary teachers. So.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. McKinney. I'd like to also just add that the Education Council meets 4 times a year, and it's an opportunity for teachers to meet directly with administration and 2 board members to talk about whatever they think is important to bring to our attention. And this was the #1 item from the elementary teachers, was that they really feel that having these 3rd and then the 4th, but definitely this 3rd section of the pilot would make a phenomenal difference in their classroom. And in fact, it's extraordinarily difficult for them to teach the way that the pilot suggests it ought to be taught and the way that they would feel most comfortable teaching without these materials. So they were very clear that this is what they wanted. So I'm going to go around. Ms. Johnson had her hand up, and then Ms. Ziem.
Thank you. Since I wasn't part of the board when this whole project came out, one thing I want to say, I have a friend who's an advocate, so I ran a little bit of this by her to give me a little bit of a heads up and an understanding. I'm going to say that I hope in this budget season that we have enough money, and this has always been my pet peeve when I've been on the board before. And when I was on the board, I started fighting for the phonics to come back in the classroom because we did whole language in the 90s. And I would hope that we would have enough money for this 4th part, because this is the most important thing. If we don't have this good foundation for our students at this early grade, doesn't matter how far they get up, it's going to crumble. And we see a lot of students in the district that have problems in the later years because we didn't have this at the beginning. The basic here is a phonics and word spelling, vocabulary development skills, handwriting, manuscript, and cursive. Concord, New Hampshire, no, it's New Jersey that's mandating cursive in the curriculum now. But I'm hoping, this to me is the most important thing in that budget, is to make sure that the money's going into the classroom for lessons like this. So I'm going to support this because I think this is very important for our students. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. Dr. McKinney, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I recall hearing when we were discussing this last year that cursive is part of this curriculum.
In foundations, yes, it is a part of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Ziem.
And expanding on what Mrs. Johnson said, like you, I also feel very sad that we don't teach phonics. So, but I think I'm understanding, and this is a question for Dr. McKinney. We're saying that this would be the start, but it's certainly not going to, it's not going to be teaching phonics across the, is it just this, if I'm looking at it, it says K2, so it's only one. How many of the kids will actually get the phonics?
So the proposal is to take 693,500,000 to purchase Part 3 now with this $1 million, and then hopefully in the next budget cycle do the phonics. The idea is that every elementary school in our district, all 12 schools, will be teaching the same thing at the same time to every grade. So the phonics program, when we purchase that, hopefully next year, will be taught to all K through 2. Yes?
So I would just like, I want to understand exactly it's only the second K2 that's going to be getting the phonics now. Is that what you're saying? I'm looking at this page and it says grades K2, and that's where I see the phonics information. So it's just a beginning with the phonics. We're not going to have the funds to go across, right? No?
I mean, certainly it's pending funding. So the goal would be K to 2. We do have to have our kids in K to 2 start with foundations, and then it's a requirement from them. Then they can have it in 3rd grade. But I'm also hearing they're making some revisions to this. So this is just a proposal. It may change because they're revising some of it, and I would hate to spend monies on a version that's going to come out with a newer version the year after and then have those funds go to waste. But the requirement from them is you have to have it kind of in place for your K2 kids, and then you can move it into 3rd grade. There's not a huge lot of word study for grades 4 and 5. But the question in front of the board tonight is just about the 693 for the guided reading materials.
It's a beginning.
Yes, ma'am.
To
you.
follow up on Ms. Ziem's comments, to be clear, are we teaching phonics now, but not with these materials, or no, we're not teaching phonics at all?
We are teaching phonics. We have a continuum. We have a variety of resources, but this would certainly bring a greater level of consistency and a higher quality resource.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I think I understand better now. Mr. Guarino?
Thank you, Madam President. Is this discussion about the entire proposal?
Well,
Because I have a question about the switches, and I don't know if Mr. Donovan has the answer because he's really not IT. But I was wondering what the impact would be on our, if anyone could answer from administration, what the impact would be on speed, internet speed, Wi-Fi at the high schools. Would that have an impact on that?
It's sort of a, not being an IT guy, but answer that
sorry, yeah.
the best I can,
Right.
is it is a piece of the improvement.
Okay.
Putting new switches in won't fix it all at once, but it's required. There'll be some more wiring that's necessary and probably more access points. So it's sort of a multi-pronged answer to get an improvement, but this is where you really need to start.
Right. That would be part of the improvement for the Wi-Fi systems,
Yes.
okay? Because I remember we discussed it either last year or the year before, and Mr. Feinkopf did talk about switches, the need for them, and in the conversation we had about Wi-Fi.
so Mr. Donovan and I were at the Alderman when this proposal came to the Alderman, and one of the things that struck me from the city's IT director was that our switches are beyond their projected lifespan, and if they break, then we don't have internet, right?
At the school.
At the school where it might break. So that's
Small matter.
discomforting.
Yes.
Okay. And Ms. Fitzpatrick?
Basically, the analogy is that the switch is the heart of the system, and without a heart, you don't have a system.
Okay.
Nobody.
Okay. All right. Do we have any other questions or comments? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms.
I'm sorry, just one, I guess I would, because I wasn't here for the last budget, it was my experience in years past that we always left the budget with my heart breaking because there were things that we didn't fund that needed so desperately to be funded. So if there are any members here who were present for that budget and there is something that, I mean, this sounds like pretty critical stuff to me, but if there's any member who has something that's not on here that they think is as important or something they'd like to add, I would certainly want to hear about it.
Thank you, Ms. Seem. Go ahead, Ms. Brown.
I think all these sound like really important things. I did, and comparatively, when you're talking 600,000, then 9,000 for this fingerprinting scanner doesn't seem like that much. But I did look at the support of it after the first year. It looks like it costs about $3,000 a year to support it. Is that something we can absorb moving forward?
3,000, sure.
Okay.
I don't want to, but if you buy it, you have to.
Out of pocket, right?
Okay. Ms. Oden?
Yes, I am going to support this, but I do want to say I'm very disappointed that the alderman and the mayor supported taking $1 million of this money and putting it toward the middle school project. And the reason I feel badly about that is the impact of that $1 million on the bond that's well over $100 million. If that's a 30-year bond, the impact is very small on the tax rate per year. That $1 million would have immediately had a huge impact on the school district. I'm looking, we just got notice that most of our Chromebooks are not going to be functioning in a year. We just adopted a science program, the Next Generation Science, that is supposed to have a Chromebook for every student. We are, you know, I'm sorry, it's expensive, education's expensive, technology's expensive, and it has a shelf life. And I'm sorry that I feel they were short-sighted, and I think we could have made very good use of that $1 million. And I will say I'm disappointed.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Oden. Ms. Seem?
I would just like to add to what she just said, and thank you, Mrs. Oden, for those comments. I believe it's a responsibility of every board member. When we see our alderman, and Mr. Dowd, we love you, but when we see these people, if we have the opportunity, we need to take the opportunity to share these kinds of things with them. They're overwhelmed. They have a full plate as well as we do. And I think sometimes it's very meaningful if they hear from us. So it took me forever to get the courage to do that, I will tell you. But I've got it now, and obviously Mrs. Oden has it. And I think it's one of the things that as board members we need to do. We need to lobby hard these people for the needs of our district, because it's our next generation who won't, I mean, it grieves me to think of how many kids go out of our high school not able to read. And that goes back to these elementary years. It truly does. So if you're not teaching them to read when they're in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, they're not going to learn. They're never going to learn. They're going to be working at Walmart and can't make change. So, but anyway, thank you for listening to my hot air.
Thank you, Ms. Seem. Well, Alderman Dowd and Mayor Don just know my feelings on this, because I went to that hearing and let them know that I thought we should have more money. So I always think that, but I was pretty clear about why, and they didn't agree with me, and that's okay. That's their job. That's why they sit there and I sit here. I will say to Mrs. Zeem's comments earlier, this Fontes and Pinnell guided rating is the thing that broke my heart, and I think probably several other members' hearts last year, that this was, if I had to pick the number one thing, this was the thing that I was most disappointed not to have. So I was so excited, even though I didn't get as much money as I had hoped, I was so excited to get $1 million that would cover this thing and then some more. And to Ms. Oden's comments, I'm so glad you brought up the Chromebooks, because I am so worried about that. Everything else is urgent. It's all urgent. I have feelings about the fingerprint scanner, which I'm not going to share right now, but that I don't think taking that off is going to make any particular difference to our students right now. So the switches and this guided reading, I really hope that the board members can see their way to supporting. So, Ms. Seem.
It was interesting what you just said, because when Mr. Donovan brought the topic up about the fingerprinting, I immediately thought, I wonder if that was the problem in Concord with the gentleman. There's an issue going on even as we speak, where they had an employee, and I wondered if we don't. It is critical that we check these people and make sure that we're not trusting our children with people who aren't worthy of that trust. So, and that we don't have, the fact that we would be without internet is a mind-boggling thing. But so I just wanted to add that I hear that there might be concerns, and it sounds like a lot of money, but everything is.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Deem. You're absolutely correct. Safety can't be compromised. Ms. O'Gara?
We do a large amount of fingerprinting in Nashua School District. It's not just our employees, it's all our volunteer, designated volunteers, student teachers, substitute teachers, the bus companies as well. So it's a lot of fingerprinting. And what happens is when you do an ink print, you have, I think, I was told about maybe 30% of them, 40% are going to come back. That means that we have to re-fingerprint those people again. And then if we don't do it in a timely manner, we're out of compliance. So it's because we are a huge district, and we have student nurses from Riviera and St. Joe's. I could go on about the amount of people that we fingerprint in Nashua. And it's important to get the prints back in a timely manner so that we know that we don't have somebody working for us or volunteering for us. That's not good for, it is not going to be good for the safety of the kids in the schools.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other comments or questions? Would anyone like to make any motions at this time? Ms. Seem?
I make a motion that we approve the proposal as submitted by administration.
I second that.
Okay. Mr. Donovan, do you need numbers in the motion? And where the money is coming from? So do you need it to say 1,036,000, et cetera, and to say how much is from the IT and how much is from this money, or does it matter?
No, I think the motion would just be approve the $1 million. The 36 is already in the budget. We'll just, so I don't think you need to. I'll put the numbers in the motion that will be in the minutes. How's that? Because I don't have them off the top of my head.
Thank you.
Wait, it's not the numbers that are here, the 1,036,613?
No, those, I mean the charge, the coding numbers.
Oh,
Not
the
dollar
accounts,
amounts,
okay.
yes.
So the motion would be to approve
1 million.
the expenses as presented in the amount of $1,036,613.
That's correct.
37,000 of which is coming from the fiscal year 20 IT budget hardware line.
Right, and then I'll have different, in the minutes, I'll give you the
You'll
different
give
codes that
Jackie
those
the
three things go
accounts.
to.
Okay. Is everyone comfortable with that? Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Guarino?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Mr. Guarino, did you get all of that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, we'll talk after. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the arrangement of tours for Board of Education members to Nashua School District buildings. I asked for this. I asked Dr. Mosley in the fall if I could have tours of all the schools again. I asked last year two years ago when I started if I could have tours of all the buildings. And I asked Dr. Mosley if we could have a schedule for new members to have tours of all the buildings in a time that is convenient to the schools to have us trooping around that won't be interrupting, testing or the work that needs to be done. Dr. Mosley?
Be happy to do so. What I'm going to do is just propose a schedule for people, and if people have a time that works for them as well, they can send it to Tara. I think it's helpful just to get out in the schools to see what's going on. I know some of us have kids in other schools. In our schools right now, and perhaps, if you have a kid at the high school, it might be nice to get it down to the middle school. I would encourage you to go down to Elm Street if you haven't already done so, to understand how a little bit the urgency for the construction project and some of our other middle schools as well. So I'm going to be setting that up within the next week or two. Principals will walk you around, show you you can ask questions, you can meet people. I think it's a great opportunity. I would bring your walking shoes. There's a lot of walking to be done here. It's, you just here in the north, it's a little bit of an illusion. I mean, this hallway is pretty long. It looks like a short hallway, but you walk it a couple times, and you get a little winded when you're my age. But at any rate, I think it's a nice opportunity for you to get out and meet faculty and administration. Some of you know them, and some of them don't know who you are, but I think it's a nice opportunity for the board. Thank you.
Ms. Seem?
Oh, I'm sorry. Several years ago, we did this as a meeting. Every meeting, we would go to a different school. And I just wonder if administration has any feelings on that. I found it, I remember particularly that we went to Amherst Street one year, and they showed us their special education program. It was very impressive. I was so touched. I came out of there proud to be part of this board. I mean, it was just wonderful. And that was only one, as Dr. Mosley was saying, when you get to the high schools, it's very impressive because there's so many things that you wouldn't even realize unless you came and took the tours. So, and I don't know how the rest of the board felt about it, but I thought that was a really good way to do it. So I don't know if that's a consideration or if...
We set up the time. I don't know everyone's schedule, so it's a very flexible schedule designed for board members. So we'll set up a week schedule for you, a week and a half schedule, and you can drop by during those times, and you might spend 20 minutes at the high school, 30 minutes at the middle school. I don't really know, but we just want to make it convenient for you. The other piece of this is that we do send out invitations for events occurring district-wide. So if you can't make it to these tours or whatever, you also will have an opportunity to go to events at the schools as well.
Thank you. May I? I'm not sure. I was asking you, and maybe the answer is that it's too cumbersome. But what I was actually asking you was what we actually did was when we had our full board meetings, those meetings would be at a different school each month. And that particular school would have an opportunity to give some kind of an overview of anything they wanted to, just, introduction of staff or whatever that they felt was of learning for the board.
I would say that because of the recording of the meetings, the ledger, that would be a little bit cumbersome from my perspective, but, certainly that would be a challenge because everything pretty much here is already set up and ready to go, so I have to think about that.
I think it would be important to ask Mr. Johnson how much that would entail, and then also recording, because we have the recording device here, and there's one at central office, but there aren't recording devices at all of the schools. And I cannot, it was very difficult for us to have a meeting in another room or at Maine Dunstable and have everything recorded. So I think we'd have to get some more information from Mr. Johnson about how, if that would work,
I
like
think
what
you-
his needs would be.
I think just having mics and talking and
And
you know,
public
the community,
comments, I don't know.
It's just a bit of a challenge.
Certainly, let's ask the question.
Well, if they feel it's too cumbersome, I've already done it, so I was very fortunate. It was, but I can appreciate what you're saying, because obviously and just the improvements they've made to this room since, I mean, I've only been gone 2 years, and it's all new equipment to some extent, so it makes a big difference. Thank you.
Okay. Did anyone else have any questions or comments regarding having the superintendent set up tours with the building principals? No? Okay. All right. So, Dr. Mosley, if you don't mind scheduling that, what are we thinking? The second half of February, probably, by the time everybody gets back?
I'll do it definitely before the break.
Okay.
It's like late January-ish, early February.
Okay.
And can I just add, got a lot of hot air. I can just add one little thing. I remember back on one of the tours I took, I invited the aldermen. We have new aldermen, and some of those aldermen may not have seen our schools. And I don't know, it just might be nice to send them an invitation and saying, if it meets your schedule and you're interested, you're welcome to come. I particularly, this was before the mayor was mayor, and he actually went on one of the tours. And one of the things I particularly like about Mayor Donches is that he knows our schools. Mm-hmm. And that's, our aldermen need, and of course, Alderman Dowd knows them because he was on the board for 10 years. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Deem. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So, is there any other new business? I don't see any hands. So that brings us to our second public question and comment period of the evening, and people have the right to speak on whatever they wish. Since I still don't have a sign up, we'll just start with Mr. Dowd.
Three very brief things, as I know public comment shouldn't drag on. One thing, I just want to congratulate the committee for such a well-organized and smooth-running committee meeting tonight, and I hope it stays that way the rest of the year. Couple of things, just a further explanation of the way the money proceeded down to what you voted on tonight. The state passed the budget so late that the monies that were coming to the city from the state, they immediately allocated to the tax rate. We never saw that money in our hands. It went to reduce the tax rate at the state level. Then what we did, the mayor, is took some money that we had already allocated to offset expenses for the budget and reallocated them and gave $1 million to the school department out of that money. It was pretty much his decision on how things got broken out, although we did have some discussion about it. The other thing is you're planning the school tours, what I did, I think a year ago, I know it was in the winter because it was cold, is to give the new members a tour of the HIVAC systems, particularly in the high schools. We had one alderman that was concerned about us spending, actually the Board of Ed spending, $93 million for a pump. He said, $93 million for a pump? The pump's the size of a Volkswagen. And you'll be amazed, those that haven't gone to see the HIVAC equipment and the penthouses on these two schools, and we may also do a middle school, why those expenses are so high. Huh?
93,000.
Thousand.
Oh, 93,000, I'm sorry. Price escalation.
Small difference.
$93,000 pump. But it was huge and required. And the only other thing is we will be, starting the middle school project. The joint special will have a meeting, and we will probably arrange a presentation for the full Board of Education to update you on where we're at with the middle school project before it gets too far along. And again, we'll have to fit that into your schedule, speaking of presentations, so, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dowd. Mr. Marcoux.
Adam Marcoux, 4 Jewelry Lane. I wrote notes, so I didn't forget. Someone was asking what I thought of the School Board Association, and I'm so glad that you joined. I may not agree with them all the time when they're lobbying at the State House and my people are up there lobbying for things, but to have an organization support legally when you have a crisis, when you have whatever, you know, the NTU is part of 3, AFT New Hampshire, AFT National, and AFL-CIO, and we have all that support of those other member organizations on top of the parent organization. So I think it's money well spent and is going to really help our district moving forward. I've worked with the executive director of the School Boards Association on a state level committee. He's a great guy and he's going to be a great resource for Nashua. When you approved the money for Fontes and Pinell, did you hear the cheering from around the city? There are more teachers and staff in the district watching than you would think, and there was a lot of cheering and clapping and happiness for that program. My youngest son piloted the Foundations program at Maine Dunstable in kindergarten, and I can't say enough good things about that part of it. Fontes and Pinell has been a staple in education forever, so it's nice to have those resources coming. And it may be alarming to hear about those switches and what the internet does in our school district. It pretty much runs everything, from the phones to the student database to report cards to attendance to everything. So we've talked about switches before. I've learned a lot about switches from the school board meetings, and they are quite alarming if they were to lose them. So I'm glad that we can replace the 2 high school ones. And as Mr. Dowd said, I hope tonight was the first of many meetings that are like this. There was an agreement throughout the meeting, but it was a way that we can be proud of to show our students on how to conduct ourselves, because I was one that often said at the beginning of other meetings that I wouldn't let my students at the time or my children, this was an example, and it's nice to sit through these and be done at 5 after 9. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marcoux. Do we have anyone else wishing to make a public comment? Okay, seeing none, it's now time for board member comments. Usually I go around the room, so if there are no objections, I'll continue that practice. All right, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you very much. I have to go back to when this building was built, and my son was one of the first graduating classes in 2004. And when I saw this building completed and this boardroom, I never sat in here when I was on the board. We just designed it because I was on the Board of Ed. So it's nice to be back home and to be able to sit around this horseshoe that I helped design. And again, I look forward to working with everybody. And I hope that when we have the 1 meeting a month, it doesn't go past this late, because we all seem to be able to get along. We could agree to disagree and move on with the next topic. And Mr. Marcoux, I look forward again to working with you. Thank you for the compliments tonight.
All right, thank you. Ms. Ziem?
I just want to thank the voters for putting their trust in me. My promise is that I will make my best effort to give you the best I have. It won't be good enough, but I certainly would not want to give less than the best I have, because our district, our teachers, our staff, Dr. Mosley, they deserve our support. Mrs. O'Carroll, you deserve our support. Mr. Donovan, all of you deserve it. And so it's my sincere hope that you will see in this board, that you are given the respect that you are entitled to and richly deserve. So I thank you all. I thank the voters, and I will do my best to be the best I know how to be. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Bishop?
I also just want to say that I'm really excited to work with everybody and get the job done and do what we're here to do, which is make students' lives better and make teachers' lives a little easier. So yay to a couple of years.
Thank you. Ms. Giglio?
I came here very excited tonight, and I'm leaving still excited. So I think that's a good thing.
All right, thank you, Ms. Giglio. Mr. Guarino?
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank all of my fellow board members here for a really great meeting. And I want to thank each and every one of you, what you bring to our board. Each and every one of you brings your own strengths, and this is going to be a really strong board, really excellent board. And I think we had a great meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Brown? Okay. Ms. Timmons?
I'm with Ms. Brown, no comment.
Ms. Oden?
Okay. I just want to thank all of you for putting your name on the ballot and accepting the position. It's a lot of work, a lot of time, but it's very worthwhile. And I would suggest that at the end of the year, when our seniors are graduating, it's a long day for the two high schools, but it's probably the high point of being on the board. So don't sell yourself short on that. That's a thrilling day. I also want to recognize the Make-A-Wish Foundation and one of our former students, Nathan Tejada, who is, his nickname is Smiley. His Make-A-Wish, he was diagnosed with lymphoma the ending of his senior year. He has had great treatment, and he is in remission. And the Make-A-Wish Foundation came to him and said, you know, you can have a car, a trip, and he said, I'd like to redo my high school weight room. And he was just an amazing person. They had the reveal on Monday, and just an exceptional person, exceptional family. To raise a son that would do something like that, think of others and not himself, they should be so proud. But Smiley did a great job, and I want to thank all the Make-A-Wish volunteers, all the people in the school district, and I'll tell you, lining the hallway as he walked down to the weight room, there were probably, I would say, 250 to 300 kids. It was just amazing, and they all tried to get into the weight room, and they were thrilled with everything. So I just want to recognize and thank Smiley for all he did, and for the Make-A-Wish givers, and for all the volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oden. I can't really follow that up, so I'll just go with a couple of quick announcements. If there are any parents watching, there are a couple of literacy things going on right now in our city and school district. One is the Battle of the Books in the elementary schools is happening right now. I saw Jessica Brown over there dancing because I believe you're a coach for the Battle of the Books. So if your elementary student hasn't mentioned it to you, ask them about it. Sign-ups are like right now, and it's really fun. And a little bit of work, but mostly fun. The other literacy initiative that's happening right now is the Mayor's Winter Reading Challenge through the Nashville Public Library. I encourage you to go to the library's website and sign your child up for it. They get different prizes for time read instead of books read, which I think is wonderful, so that everyone can participate. And at the end, you get a lovely certificate showing what you've done, and there's usually a party at the Arlington Street Community Center at the end of the challenge, which is a lot of fun too. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you all so much for being here this evening, and I hope we have a great year. So, Ms. Timmons?
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Motion to adjourn by Ms. Timmons, seconded by Ms. Oden. FYI, that's not debatable. So whenever you're ready, Mr. Guarino?
All those in favor of adjournment, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned at 9:11 p.m.
All right, thank you very much. See you in a few weeks.